Well, hello. I didn't see you there.
So funny.
Hey, Emily, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm okay. How are you? Look, you're not in places unknown.
As I I'm back in my little home.
So, I guess we're gonna talk about Loma.
Loma. What would you like to talk about?
Well, if you could, I don't know, tell us like the backstory maybe, or why you decided to do this new project.
Well, when we were on tour with Cross Record,
Yeah.
During the Jet Plane and Oxbow tour, we just kind of fell in love with their music.
Definitely.
And getting to see them every night was a real joy. Like, I very rarely ever enjoyed seeing an opening band night after night after night after night like that.
We watched them every single night.
We did, and they played mostly the same set every night too.
Yeah,
It's just like you realize, like, oh, and this song, oh, and this one, and this one,
I
and
love
this
this
is where they're
song.
going to do this. And so we were such fans that after a show in, I think, Brussels, love that. I just went up to him. I was like, we need to make a record together of some kind, or at least try to.
Yeah.
And so we convened sort of between tours at one point, and I just went out there for a couple of weeks, and we stayed in the house where they lived at the time and played. You know, we just sort of experimented a little bit, and a couple songs turned up pretty quickly, and it seemed like, okay, we could actually make a record. And so then over the next several months, I went back a few more times, and we kept making new songs and discarding a couple of the old ones as it became clearer what was working. It was amazing. It was, in some ways, it was very easy. I haven't had that much fun making a record in a while. But part of it was that I wasn't doing all the lifting. I mean, there was, Dan and Emily are just such creative people that I could kind of get things in motion and then stand back. So we made this record, and I'd never written for anybody else to sing before, which was kind of an amazing thing to do. I asked Emily what her range was, and she said she didn't know. So it's kind of like, can you sing this note? Can you sing this note?
That's funny.
And then when we started recording, we actually recorded her at a higher sample rate by accident once, and then played back, and we were like, whoa, because when you do that, what happens is when you play back at the regular rate, it slows everything down. And so her voice is a little bit slower than normal, but she was still singing in tune with the track. And so she'd had to sing higher than the track actually was, but then when it played back, she was singing at the right pitch, but it was as if, I don't know, like if you've heard this is like starting to be an old metaphor, but like if you hear a tape slow down, it was like her voice had just sort of been slowed down just a little bit.
Yeah.
So it sounded like Buffalo Bill from The Silence of the Lambs.
It did.
And so,
which is what you were going for.
yeah. But we were all kind of transfixed by this sound, because it sort of was like Emily, not Emily, and that seemed like both metaphorically and sonically like the perfect thing for the record. So we tracked almost all of her vocals that way. And there were lots of things like that. Like we put a lot of natural sound from out around the house. I mean, you came out there a couple times.
Yeah.
We only got to play on one song a little bit.
First track. Violin.
There's a little violin that sort of like creeps in for a second and goes
Creepy
away. It's one of
violin.
my favorite moments on the record. But there's just, unlike Jet Plane and Oxbow, which was very technological sounding deliberately, Loma we didn't have the same fancy recording setup to work with, but we did have the environment. The dogs that run by the microphones a few times in the songs.
I love that.
And
I love that so much.
there's a couple of dog solos in there, and the wind in the trees outside the house, and the Chuck Will's Widows calling in the nighttime. We tried to make all of that kind of breathe through the record. And we ended up with something that was very different from Shearwater or Cross Record.
Yeah, very much so.
And it has elements of both, but it's not just like,
No, it doesn't
the
sound.
colors mix really well.
Yeah.
It's not just.
It sounds like a new thing.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it is. So, but it started very casually, which I think sometimes that's a good way to start things when you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. I have a specific question from. It's at Yellow Prawn Steph on Twitter. Can you share where the name Loma comes from?
Loma is it's a Spanish word that just means hill, and I liked it that it was a landscape feature. I liked that it was sort of kind of like masculine and feminine seeming at the same time, and I liked that it feels good to say in your mouth. It seemed to somehow fit the what we were doing.
Didn't someone recently say it means holiday in some?
Oh yeah,
way?
in Finnish.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah,
funny.
I didn't know about that. I'd like to take credit for that, but I can't. But it's kind of a with titles. I almost always get titles for things kind of early on in the process, album titles and band names and stuff, and then it's don't try to look into them too hard. If I just like it, then we tend to run with it and then let the thing become that.
Did you come up with this one early?
Yeah, I had it fairly early on.
That's cool. So, people also would like to know about, like, what does this mean for Shearwater, and is there more Shearwater on the horizon, or?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to make another Shearwater record for sure. But until my book is finished and we've done the touring cycle on this Loma record, I'm not going to go there.
I mean, that'd be a lot.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's just, I don't think that the quality of it would be very good. I'm desperately trying to get the book done before we start the touring for Loma, and I want to just sort of immerse myself in that for a little bit. It's been a long time since I've just played guitar and bass and stuff in a band. And that's a wonderful, fun thing to do, to not be the singer in a band. I mean, I guess last time I did it was for Bill Callahan years ago. So I'm looking forward to kind of rediscovering what that role is like and trying to push that whole thing forward ourselves. But I think it's just part of it's what makes this worth doing, is the chance that it gives you to have new artistic adventures and try new stuff. And when I go back to do another Shearwater record, then this will have changed it in some way, or I'll be sick of some aspects of this and want to run towards something else.
Yeah.
That way it'll keep me from repeating myself too much, which starts to get to be a thing when you're as old and decrepit as I am.
No. Well, I liked the comment. There was some comment about how this Loma Black Willow seemed, more acoustically leaning than Jet Plane, and so I like that reactionary kind of.
Yeah, you want to go for sounds that you haven't listened to in a little while and see what you might have learned about how to approach them in that time.
Yeah, totally.
And well, I mean, the Loma band, I think, is still going to be pretty loud, though.
I hope so.
I want to make it nice and powerful.
Yeah.
But Cross Record managed to be very powerful without being devastatingly
Very much
loud.
so, yeah.
And so I think I had some things to learn from them about that. But when you're a 6-piece rock band with big amps and stuff, and then it's you're going to be kind of loud no matter what.
And I like being loud. And can you tell us where you are about with your book and I don't know, the fundraising? People want to know if they can contribute or
People have been so generous about that, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate it, because it's I've been very lucky to get to make a living in the arts for the last decade and some. But it's always touch and go, and especially when you're getting to the end of a project, and it's not, the book's not going to come out till about a year after I submit the manuscript, probably. And just working on the book, I just came back here for a day, and I'm going back up to the place I've been sequestered. But that's pretty much what you have to do. You kind of can't do anything else, and your brain has to just fill up with that thing. It kind of turns you into an awful person, because you just don't.
That's not true.
Well, you don't think about other people like you should,
Okay.
because you spend most of your time thinking about this project.
Because you kind of have to, though.
so that you can exercise it.
Right.
There's that.
Yeah, exactly.
Nabokov has that story about he wrote Lolita supposedly because he saw a picture of or saw some story about a chimpanzee that lived in a cage that had been given paints and paper to draw on, and it had drawn a picture of the bars of its cage.
Oh my god.
So it's like it's probably apocryphal. I don't even know if he actually said it or if he did. I don't know if it's actually true, but there is something to it though, in that I feel like I'm kind of painting the bars of this cage that I've been living in for a long time. And when it's over, then I can paint the door on and walk out of it, and then put everybody else in there instead, and I can just stop thinking about this stuff. But to think about, I mean, you were actually, I was just showing Emily some of the book, and like there's just a lot of stuff in that book.
It's a lot.
It goes so many places, or so much time and locations and animals and people and stuff.
Well, it's a synthesis of a lot of different sources as well, like personal sources and
historical sources.
Yeah.
And, it's like there's one section you were just looking at that has quotes from Darwin and this 16th century Jesuit priest, and
who I love.
Bernabe Como.
I love Bernabe Como so much.
He's so good. I love him too. But you know, you're trying to make all these different things talk to each other, and so they all have to kind of be in your. You kind of have to invite them all into your head to see if they can have a conversation. and then so until that's been shoved out, it's going to be hard to focus on starting that process again for a new Shearwater record. But I'll definitely do it.
But what about?
I'll have to be prevented. But as far as the what we say
fundraising,
fundraising,
like the eBay stuff and
I did the guitar sold, which is great. It sold to somebody I knew, which is even better because maybe someday I'll be able to buy it back. So and that's gonna give me enough latitude to go for another couple months, and if I need to sell some of the other stuff off, then I'll keep doing it, but I wanted to wait for a little bit. So I don't want to ask for more than I need, and I'd rather hang on to that stuff than not. So I'm going to just see what I can do with that, and then I'll continue the sale of those couple things if I don't.
And you don't want to do a Kickstarter or something like that?
I don't want to do a Kickstarter. To be honest, I'm partly saving that for. I mean, maybe that's just the way things are going these days, like Patreon. And these. I mean, there's a lot to that, because certainly the way that the economics of working in the arts are changing all the time, and not in a way that makes it easier. And that's one way that does seem to kind of work. There's a part of me, though, that just is so hesitant to do that, or especially to do it more than once. And I have a feeling that it's possible, though I don't know, that I might need to use it to make the next Shearwater record. And if that's the case, I'd rather do it for that, especially for people who are paying attention to this because they like Shearwater.
Right, yeah.
So that's where I'm at for now. However, if I get super desperate, then, I'll do it's you'll know when I'm totally desperate. But people have been so kind to me over the years, not just both people who like the music and have been interested in other stuff that I did, and of course the record labels too, that I'm just wary of asking for anything more than I need. So that's where I'm at with that for the moment.
Okay.
Does that seem like a good answer?
Yeah, I think so.
But I've been overwhelmed by the number of people who wrote to me who said, I don't want to buy your amp, but can I give you $50 or something? The answer is, yes, later. Hold on to it.
Wait till it accrues interest. And
right. It's or
just kidding.
It's what's the opposite of the wimpy thing? Remember, I'll gladly pay you today for a hamburger on Tuesday.
Hamburger
It's like, I'll gladly give you a hamburger today if you'll pay me on Tuesday.
It doesn't work out for you, so I guess
that's
eventually
the music business model now.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah, it's like, give us a hamburger today and we'll pay you eventually.
Yeah, later.
After we pay 80% of it to some guy in Norway.
So kind of a related question to everything from Twitter, John McLeod. That's at Mr. John McLeod.
Oh, Mr. John McLeod.
Hello, Mr. John McLeod.
I always think of Brewster McLeod.
He's also another JM, which is interesting. How is juggling all this stuff working out in terms of sheer brain space. I'm struggling to go and make a cup of tea because I'm listening to podcasts.
John, the answer is that I'm exactly like you. It's hard to, slow juggling is very difficult. The ball just doesn't want to stay in the air, no matter what. So it does make me kind of mental sometimes, for sure. Because I want to do a good job with all this stuff, and I'm doing it as fast as I can, but sometimes that speed is not anywhere near as fast as I would like it to be. In the last couple of weeks, I've been writing in the book, and I feel like no matter how many thousand words I plonk into the thing, I mean, the whole thing's in here right now. I backed it up, but it's like I just want to get it out of there, and it's no matter how many thousand words I put into it right now, it feels like the end is not closer. But hopefully one day that'll come to an end.
I think you're doing a good job on all fronts.
Oh, thanks, Emily.
Just FYI on that. So, I don't know. I guess that's it.
Is that it?
Do you want to play anything, or...
That's that little thing I was playing on the...
Yeah.
It's one of the songs on the Loma record, which probably won't be released until February. But it was one of the February
16.
16th. Hear that? It was the is that Staten Island Ferry, or the East River Ferry? It's one of the ferries.
It's one of the Staten Island Ferry. I don't think the East River.
It's nice of it. It's kind of like Moondog playing with the Queen Mary.
Mm-hmm. That's funny.
Trying to figure out if it's possible to reintegrate the so-called whammy bar, the tremolo arm, in a way that's tasteful.
Oh yeah.
Because it got so abused in the 80s,
Yeah.
And stuff that Adrian Ballou can do that, and it's incredible. But
do that at a phaser.
And that's the whole. That's like the sound I was using on the Lodger stuff. But it's then you ended up in like Joe Satriani land too, but it's such an interesting little texture because you let it go and you go, okay, fine, with it.
Yeah, I mean that's
just that little thing.
It's
makes
like a
it
subtle
so much...
trem. You were playing something before that was like a little too much though.
What was it?
You were like bending every single thing. Yeah.
That's the danger zone.
Don't
Highway to the danger zone right there.
I guess I could stop. I can stop taping, I guess. So pretty. This tape slow down.
All right.